Afghanistan-Pakistan border, 1989. Through a sandstorm that reduced visibility to mere guesswork, Master Sergeant Emily Phantom Hayes adjusted her scope by fractions of millimeters. Three Delta Force teams had declared this shot impossible. The target, a Soviet-backed terrorist commander whose elimination would disrupt weapon shipments to insurgent groups. Her Macmillan TAC 338 nestled against her shoulder. She exhaled halfway and held. The rifle roared. The bullet traveled 1.7 kilometers, cutting through swirling sand and wind. 1 minute later, confirmation came through her headset. Target eliminated. The shot would later be studied in military academies as technically impossible given the conditions. But this impossible shot wasn't what made her a legend. What came after did. Colorado Rockies, 2006. 6 months after the Checkpoint Alpha incident, the mountain air bit cold against Emily Hayes' weathered face as she stepped onto the wooden porch of her isolated cabin. At 45, her features carried the lines of someone who'd spent years calculating the mathematics of death at extreme distances. Her dark hair, once regulation short, now reached her shoulders. Streaked with premature silver, the legacy of too many deployments and the betrayal that had ended her career. Inside, she assembled her rifle with practiced precision, each component receiving meticulous attention. This wasn't mere equipment maintenance. It was meditation, the last vestige of control in a life where everything else had been taken away. Her attention shifted to the military-grade radio system, salvaged from an old operation. Through it, Emily monitored communications from Iron Mountain Joint Base 30 miles east, the installation where she had once been a respected instructor before Checkpoint Alpha changed everything. The radio crackled. Iron Mountain, this is Convoy Delta 6, proceeding with diplomatic package via Root Canyon, ETA checkpoint 1100 hours. Emily frowned. Root Canyon was notoriously vulnerable to ambush. She checked the weather forecast. A severe snowstorm approached from the northwest. Amateurs, she muttered. Same predictable route every time. The satellite phone rang. Only one person had this number. William, Emily answered, her tone softening slightly. Colonel William Bill Anderson's gravelly chuckle carried the weight of his 72 years. Not likely, kid. Some of us still remember what loyalty means. Bill was a Cold War veteran whose intelligence career had taken him from Korean listening posts to operations against the Soviet bloc. He'd been her father's handler during dangerous CIA operations of the 1970s, and after her father's death in 1975, Bill had become Emily's surrogate parent. I've been looking into Checkpoint Alpha, Bill continued. Things don't add up. The nephew's background, the timing of the ambush, it feels manufactured. What are you saying? I'm saying I think you were set up. Someone wanted that convoy hit or wanted you to take action that would end your career. There's more, Bill continued, voice dropping. I've picked up chatter about a high-value transport coming through your area. Special cargo, enhanced security, classified route. What kind of cargo? Unknown, but it's drawing serious attention. The kind that gets people killed. By mid-morning, the first snowflakes began drifting from a steel-gray sky. Emily positioned herself on a rocky outcropping overlooking Death's Curve, a treacherous section of Root Canyon. Through her high-powered scope, Emily tracked the convoy's progress. 3 armored Humvees escorted a heavily reinforced MRAP vehicle. Yet even from this distance, Emily identified critical vulnerabilities. Consistent spacing, uniform speed, predictable route. Emily switched to her signals intelligence equipment. The directional antenna intercepted short-range communications within a 5-mile radius. Cutting through the background static, she detected fragments. Primary target confirmed. Package in the MREP as intelligence indicated. Weather conditions optimal for intercept. The voice carried the distinctive accent of Eastern European military training. The tactical terminology was unmistakably Spetsnaz, Russian Special Forces. Emily switched back to the military frequency. Delta 6, this is an emergency override. You are driving into a coordinated ambush. I repeat, visual confirmation of hostiles in Overwatch positions. Only static answered her transmission. Time was running out. Emily quickly assembled her rifle and gathered essential gear. Whatever was happening, she couldn't watch another convoy be destroyed. Not again. At Iron Mountain Joint Base, the Tactical Operations Center hummed with controlled urgency. Lieutenant Colonel James Reynolds, a 58-year-old veteran of numerous Cold War confrontations, studied the tactical display showing Root Canyon, partially obscured by the advancing snowstorm. Captain Michael Iron Mike Sullivan strode in, already dressed in tactical gear. At 44, Sullivan carried himself with the confident economy of movement, marking career special operations personnel. "Sir," he addressed Reynolds, "Alpha Team is ready for deployment. What's the situation?" Reynolds gestured to the tactical display. "High-value convoy on Root Canyon. Possible hostile presence reported by an unconfirmed source." The colonel hesitated, then lowered his voice. "There's something else. The package they're transporting, it's not standard diplomatic material." He entered a security code, bringing up a classified briefing document. "They're escorting a Russian nuclear physicist who defected last week in Turkey. Dr. Andrei Baranov, former head of Russia's tactical nuclear program. He's carrying critical intelligence about legacy Soviet weapon systems, potentially still operational on U.S. soil." Sullivan's expression hardened. "So if someone wanted to prevent that intelligence from reaching us, they'd hit this convoy hard, take the package, and disappear into the storm before we could mount an effective response," Reynolds finished. A communications officer interrupted with urgent news. "Sir, Signals Intelligence is picking up encrypted transmissions matching known Spetsnaz communication protocols." "Alpha Team deploys immediately," Reynolds ordered. "Full tactical package. Your primary objective is to secure the package and any surviving personnel if Delta 6 is compromised." The snow fell in thickening sheets as Emily positioned herself overlooking the stretch where the convoy would be most vulnerable. Through her rifle scope, she confirmed her worst fears. Hidden among the rocks and trees were at least 20 combatants in white winter camouflage, their positions expertly chosen to create overlapping fields of fire. Emily settled into her shooting position. Range, approximately 1,200 meters. Wind, gusting from the northwest at 25 or 30 knots. Temperature, well below freezing. Visibility, rapidly deteriorating. Through her scope, she identified the operation commander, a figure speaking into a radio behind a rocky outcropping. Emily regulated her breathing, slowing her heart rate through techniques perfected over thousands of hours. The TAC 338 roared, the sound echoing across the canyon as the round cut through snow and wind to find its mark with devastating precision. The commander collapsed, the radio tumbling from lifeless fingers. The shot's effect was immediate. The coordinated ambush, now without its central command, fell into momentary confusion. Emily used these precious seconds to acquire her next target, the PKM machine gunner whose position threatened the entire convoy. Another calculated breath, another pressure on the trigger. The convoy, now alerted to the danger, began emergency defensive maneuvers. Emily keyed her radio. "Delta 6, this is Overwatch Position Bravo. You have approximately 20 hostile forces in prepared positions. Recommend immediate tactical withdrawal to defensible position at grid coordinates 374215 north, 1065322 west." A tense voice responded, "This is Delta 6 actual. Identify yourself immediately." "No time," Emily replied, eliminating a third target, an RPG gunner preparing to disable the lead vehicle. "I'm providing covering fire. Follow my coordinates if you want to survive." Despite her covering fire, The ambush forces recovered quickly. Gunfire erupted from multiple positions, forcing the convoy into a defensive posture. Through her communications intercept equipment, Emily picked up fragments of Russian transmissions. Sniper on the Western Ridge, possibly American military, initiate counter-sniper protocol Alpha. A new transmission cut through her radio. All stations, this is Ranger Team Alpha proceeding to convoy location. ETA 10 minutes. Ranger Alpha, this is Overwatch Bravo. Convoy under heavy attack from approximately 20 specialized operators. Identified Russian tactical procedures and equipment. Captain Sullivan's voice came back sharp with suspicion. Overwatch Bravo, you are on a secured military frequency. Identify yourself immediately. Emily hesitated only briefly. Ranger Alpha, this is former Master Sergeant Emily Hayes. Call sign Phantom. I'm in position providing precision fire support for Delta 6. The silence that followed was profound. Hayes, Sullivan finally responded, disbelief evident. The Emily Hayes from the Afghanistan records? Confirmed target area is hot, she replied tersely, ignoring the question as she eliminated another enemy fighter. Delta 6 is pinned down and taking fire from multiple directions. Simultaneously, her signals intelligence equipment picked up a new transmission, this one in English with a slight Russian accent. All teams, priority target identified. Emily Hayes, former U.S. military sniper, is providing overwatch from Western Ridge. Concentrate efforts on neutralizing this threat before proceeding with primary objective. They knew her specifically by name. This wasn't just about the convoy. Someone had recognized her shooting signature, the distinctive pattern and precision that had once made her famous within military circles. Captain Sullivan led his Ranger team through the thickening snowfall. The revelation that Emily Hayes, the legendary Phantom, was involved had sent shockwaves through the team. Harper, monitoring their tactical radio, suddenly raised her hand in warning. Sir, picking up multiple signals ahead, encrypted, but the pattern matches Russian military algorithms. Before Sullivan could respond, the distinctive whistle of an incoming mortar round cut through the air. Cover! He shouted, the team diving for protection as the explosion sent snow and shrapnel spraying across their position. Sullivan took the radio. Hayes, this is Sullivan. We're taking mortar fire approximately 800 meters east of the convoy position. Can you identify the launch site? Emily's voice came back crisp and professional. Ranger Alpha, I have visual on your position. Mortar team is located at your 2 o'clock, approximately 600 meters, using a rock formation for cover. Another mortar round whistled overhead, landing closer to their position. Williams, Sullivan called to his heavy weapons specialist. Prep the Carl Gustav. We're going to take out that mortar position ourselves. As Williams readied the anti-armor weapon, Spencer, the team scout, returned from his forward reconnaissance with troubling news. Sir, the convoy situation is critical. Lead and rear vehicles disabled. The MRAP is intact but surrounded. The package still secure? As far as I could tell, but they're trying to breach it systematically. Professional approach, shape charges, position to disable rather than destroy. This wasn't a simple ambush. It was a carefully orchestrated extraction operation. A new transmission came through from Emily. Ranger Alpha, I've identified the operational commander through communications intercepts. Viktor Sokolov, former Spetsnaz colonel. I've encountered him before. Afghanistan, 1989. Is that relevant to our current situation? Sullivan pressed. It explains everything. Sokolov isn't just after your package, Captain. This entire operation has been designed with secondary objectives in mind. What kind of secondary objectives? The kind that include eliminating me, she replied flatly. Checkpoint Alpha wasn't an accident or a diplomatic incident. It was a setup. Sokolov set me up to end my career, and now he's here to finish what he started. Emily's mind flashed back to Afghanistan, 1989. Operation Javelin, the classified mission that had made her reputation as the deadliest sniper in American military history. 28-year-old Emily Hayes had maintained position for 36 hours without sleep. The mission, eliminate Nikolai Sokolov, a Soviet intelligence officer coordinating weapons shipments to anti-American insurgent groups. When Nikolai Sokolov emerged from the compound, Emily was ready. The 7.62 mm round traveled for 3.4 seconds before striking Sokolov with lethal precision, a shot that military ballistics experts would later declare technically impossible. What Emily hadn't known was that Viktor Sokolov, Nikolai's younger brother, had witnessed the kill from nearby. Viktor had sworn vengeance that day, not just against America, but specifically against the shooter who had taken his brother's life. Now, 17 years later, Emily understood the full scope of that vengeance. Checkpoint Alpha hadn't been a random incident. It had been carefully orchestrated to end her career. As Emily relocated to avoid counter-sniper teams, a voice called out to her, speaking perfect English with only the faintest trace of a Russian accent. "Emily Hayes, after all these years, we finally meet. I studied your shot in Afghanistan for years," the voice continued. "The ballistics were extraordinary. Impossible, really, except you made it possible. My name is Alexei Volkov. Perhaps you've heard of me? I hold the long-distance elimination record for the Russian Federation, 1.8 kilometers in Chechnya." The name registered immediately. Alexei Volkov, the legendary Russian sniper whose reputation in military circles rivaled her own. The Russians called him Ghost Wolf for his ability to hunt targets through impossible terrain. Emily keyed her radio one final time. "Sullivan, situation compromise. Russian counter-sniper confirmed. Alexei Volkov, their top marksman. I'll keep him occupied while you secure the package." Without waiting for a response, she discarded her radio, knowing Volkov would be tracking any electromagnetic emissions. This was now a primal contest between two apex predators, a lethal game where the slightest mistake would mean death. Captain Sullivan and his team reached a protective ridgeline overlooking the ambush site. The convoy security team had established a defensive perimeter around the damaged MRAP, but they were clearly outmatched. "Assessment," Sullivan ordered. Spencer, the team scout, reported, "I count 23 tangos in active engagement, 4-man team working on the MRAP with breaching equipment, 2 heavy weapons positions." Sullivan processed this information with rapid tactical assessment. They were outnumbered and outgunned, facing elite Russian operators with air extraction capabilities. Sullivan studied the terrain, looking for tactical advantages. Then something Emily had mentioned returned to him, a set of coordinates she had provided. "Harper, pull up grid coordinates 374215 north, 106522 west on the tactical map." "Sir, that's the Stone Bridge, an old railway crossing about half a kilometer north of the current position. Natural choke point, elevated position, and according to this geological survey, there's a network of maintenance tunnels underneath it from when it was an active railway line." Sullivan's expression hardened with decision. "That's our play. We need to get the convoy to that bridge. Defensible position, overhead cover, and emergency evacuation options through the tunnel system if things go sideways." "We create a diversion," Sullivan explained, outlining the plan. "Williams, set up the Carl Gustav on that western ridge. When I give the signal, take out their heavy weapons position on the northern end." The anti-armor weapon roared, sending its high-explosive round directly into the northern machine gun nest. Simultaneously, Torres and Chen deployed smoke grenades and flashbangs, creating a chaotic wall of obscurement along the eastern approach. Spencer seized the opportunity, sprinting through the chaos toward the convoy. Meanwhile, Harper began broadcasting confusing orders in Russian on the enemy's tactical frequency, creating the impression that their command structure had been compromised. The convoy security team, recognizing the narrow window of opportunity, began executing a fighting withdrawal toward the Stonebridge coordinates. Colonel William Bill Anderson sat in his home office in Denver, surrounded by secure communication equipment. His weathered hands moved across specialized keyboards, monitoring encrypted channels and satellite feeds focused on the developing situation. "Bill, it's worse than we thought," Reynolds reported. "Confirmation on Sokolov. He's running the operation personally, and he brought Alexei Volkov with him. This isn't just about grabbing Baranov and his intelligence on the legacy Soviet weapons. Sokolov specifically recognized Hayes. He was waiting for her to get involved." Bill closed his eyes momentarily, processing the implications. "I warned her this might happen. Ever since Checkpoint Alpha, I've been tracking anomalies, subtle patterns suggesting someone was manipulating intelligence to target her specifically." "You think Sokolov has an inside man?" "I know he does," Bill replied grimly. "The question is how high the corruption goes. Sullivan is asking questions about her background, her connection to Sokolov. The team deserves to know what they're really dealing with." Bill's gaze shifted to an old photograph on his desk, a younger version of himself standing beside a tall, distinguished man in CIA operational gear. Emily's father, John Hayes, had been his closest friend and the agency's most effective deep cover operative until his death in 1975. "Tell them what they need to know," Bill decided, "but secure channel only. This goes beyond today's operation." At the Stone Bridge, Captain Sullivan had established a defensive perimeter. The MRAP containing Dr. Baranov and the critical intelligence had been positioned in the center of their defensive formation, partially protected by the bridge's stone structure. It was during this momentary respite that Sullivan received the secure transmission from Iron Mountain Base. "Captain, this is Colonel Reynolds. I'm patching in Colonel William Anderson, retired CIA operations director and Emily Hayes' former handler. He has critical intelligence about the situation you're facing." Bill revealed the classified history that had led to this moment. Emily Hayes isn't just any special operations sniper. She's the daughter of John Hayes, one of America's most effective CIA operatives during the Cold War. In 1975, John was running a network of assets inside Soviet military intelligence, Bill explained. He uncovered evidence of a program called Sleeping Dragon, sleeper agents planted in American military and intelligence organizations, designed to activate decades later. His cover was compromised by someone inside our own agency. The Soviets captured, tortured, and executed him. Emily was only 14 when it happened. Viktor and Nikolai Sokolov's father was the KGB officer who conducted John's interrogation. He made recordings, sent them to us as psychological warfare. Emily heard her father's final moments when she was just a child. This wasn't simply a professional grudge between operators. It was the culmination of generational hatred forged in the darkest corners of the Cold War. When Emily eliminated Nikolai Sokolov in 1989, she had no idea of the connection, Bill continued. It was a standard high-value target elimination, but Victor recognized her name from his father's files. He spent the last 17 years planning his revenge, first by destroying her career, now by attempting to eliminate her personally. "Based on the communication patterns I'm intercepting," Bill added, "I believe Sokolov has a high-level source inside our military command structure, someone who provided the exact route information and security details for this convoy. A traitor? A Russian sleeper, possibly activated recently. Be extremely careful about who you communicate with. Limit your transmissions to this secure channel only." Emily found herself 15 feet behind Alexei Volkov, her sidearm trained on the back of his head. "Don't move, Alexei," she said quietly in Russian. "Your position is compromised." "Emily Hayes," he replied in English, his voice calm despite the circumstances. "I wondered when you would finally make your move. Why is Sokolov here, Alexei? This isn't just about the Russian defector or his intelligence. What's the real operation?" Viktor Sokolov is a man obsessed, Alexei said finally. Yes, the defector and his intelligence are valuable assets for Russia, but this operation was designed specifically to draw you out. He's been planning this since Checkpoint Alpha. You don't sound entirely convinced of the mission, Emily observed. I am a professional, he replied stiffly. I follow orders. Even when those orders place you in an impossible tactical situation on foreign soil, this isn't a sanctioned Russian military operation, is it? This is Sokolov's personal vendetta dressed up as intelligence gathering. The Russian sniper's composed facade cracked slightly. My daughter Natasha, 16 years old. After her mother died, Sokolov arranged for her education at an exclusive school in Moscow, an education that can be terminated at any time if I fail to perform my duties. Emily maintained her aim but adjusted her approach. What if there was another option? One that secured your daughter's safety while stopping whatever Sokolov has planned. I have connections, people who specialize in exactly this type of extraction. Former intelligence officers with networks still active in Moscow. Bill Anderson, Alexei stated, surprising Emily with his knowledge. Sullivan's voice came through Emily's tactical headset. All positions be advised. Russian assault elements approaching from multiple directions. Prepare for immediate engagement. Make your choice, Alexei, she said firmly. Keep serving a man who's using your daughter as a pawn, or help me stop Sokolov, and I guarantee her safe extraction from Moscow within 48 hours. Alexei studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. Finding none, he made his decision. What do you need me to do? Emily and Alexei approached the stone bridge under heavy fire. Sullivan's defensive perimeter was holding, but barely. The superior numbers and equipment of Sokolov's forces were gradually overwhelming the Rangers' position. With silent efficiency, Emily and Alexei eliminated the security detail around Sokolov's command post. Quick, clean kills that produced no sound to alert him. The door opened before they reached it. Viktor Sokolov stood in the entrance, a pistol held casually at his side. Emily Hayes, he said in perfect English. I've been expecting you. His gaze shifted to Alexei, and a flicker of genuine surprise crossed his features. Your security team is dead, Victor. Your extraction helicopter won't be coming. Alexei took care of that. The Rangers at the stone bridge are holding their position, and reinforcements are on the way. It's over. Sokolov's thin smile contained no warmth. Is it? Checkmate takes many forms, Emily. Spare me the chess metaphors, Emily replied coldly. You're coming with us. You have intelligence we need about Sleeping Dragon, about the moles in our government, about the forgotten Soviet weapons on American soil. Sleeping Dragon, Sokolov mused. Your father's great discovery. John Hayes, my father's most significant intelligence victory during the Cold War. The Americans told you he died in 1975, Sokolov continued. A captured CIA operative executed after interrogation. They lied to you, Emily. Your father didn't die in 1975. You're lying. Sokolov reached into his pocket, producing a small metallic object. Your father's wedding ring, the one he refused to remove even during operations, the one missing from his personal effects that the CIA returned to your family. Emily recognized it instantly. He gave it to me in 1987, just before his death, Sokolov continued. Said I should return it to his daughter when the time was right. Your father helped train me, Emily. Everything I know about American Special Operations tactics came directly from John Hayes. If true, it meant her entire life, her career, her missions. Even her legendary status as America's deadliest sniper had been built on a foundation of lies. If you're telling the truth, Emily said finally, then you've made a critical error, Victor. And what might that be? You've given me something new to fight for. Before this was professional, now it's personal. Emily moved with blinding speed, her first strike knocking the weapon from his grip. The second connected with surgical precision to his solar plexus. Despite his age, Sokolov countered with a devastatingly powerful combination, his technique revealing decades of hand-to-hand combat experience. But Emily Hayes hadn't earned her reputation through luck. She flowed around his attacks with fluid precision, each movement economical and purposeful. Your father lasted 3 years before his first suicide attempt, Sokolov taunted. After the fifth attempt, they removed his limbs. Hard to open veins without hands. The recording they sent you, Sokolov continued, blood now streaming from a cut above his eye. The one of his interrogation. That was year 3. He still believed rescue was coming. By year 5, he was begging for death. You fight well, he acknowledged, genuine professional respect in his voice despite the circumstances. Your father would be proud. My father taught me that some enemies deserve no mercy, Emily replied, advancing methodically as Sokolov gave ground. That certain threats can never be rehabilitated or contained. Then finish it, he challenged. Prove you are truly John Hayes's daughter. Emily moved with blinding speed, her knife appearing in her hand as she closed the final distance between them. The blade stopped a millimeter from Sokolov's throat, held there by her perfect control. That's the difference between us, Victor, she said quietly. My father also taught me that revenge is hollow. Justice is what matters. 1 month later, Emily Hayes stood before her first class at the newly established Advanced Tactical Decision-Making School at Fort Bragg. 24 Special Operations personnel regarded her with the mixture of curiosity and respect her reputation commanded. Beside her stood Alexei Volkov, now officially designated as Special Consultant to the U.S. military under carefully negotiated protocols. My name is Master Sergeant Emily Hayes, she began without preamble. Most of you know me by reputation, either as Phantom or as the officer discharged after Checkpoint Alpha. Both perspectives contain elements of truth and elements of mythology. This program exists because tactical reality rarely conforms to operational parameters, because sometimes the rulebook fails, because ethical decisions in combat situations often contain ambiguities that no training manual adequately addresses. After the class had dispersed, Emily found herself alone in the briefing room, staring at the sealed envelope Anderson had given her weeks ago, containing the final intelligence report on her father. She had carried it with her every day since then, unable to bring herself to open it, yet unwilling to set it aside. With steady hands that had once ended lives at impossible distances, she finally broke the seal. The contents were sparse: declassified KGB documents, intelligence assessments, medical reports, but devastating in their clarity. John Hayes had indeed survived until 1987, held in a specialized facility outside Moscow. The photographs showed a man systematically broken, physically and psychologically, yet who had somehow maintained enough of himself to embed coded messages in his forced training sessions with young Soviet operatives, including Viktor Sokolov. One image showed her father's hand gripping Sokolov's shoulder during what appeared to be combat instruction, his fingers positioned in the distinct pattern of special operations, hand signals spelling "still fighting." The final page contained a handwritten note from Anderson. He never broke Emily, not where it mattered. He fed them calculated misinformation for years. The last message we decoded from his sessions, 3 days before his death: tell my daughter I kept faith. He died on his terms, not theirs. As she reached the facility's observation deck overlooking the sprawling training grounds of Fort Bragg, Sullivan joined her. You know, Sullivan observed, breaking her momentary introspection, there's a saying among the Rangers about impossible situations. The only way out is through. Through the fire, Emily completed with quiet recognition. Exactly. You went through yours and emerged stronger. Now you're teaching others to do the same. Whatever came next, she would face it with the same precision, discipline, and ethical clarity that had defined her extraordinary career. Not because regulations demanded it, but because integrity required nothing less. The phantom had returned, not as she had been before, but as something perhaps more valuable. A legend who had fallen, endured, and risen again to share the hard-won wisdom of both triumph and adversity.